Okay, so get ready for a deep dive today. You know we love to tackle the big questions, and this one's a doozy. We're taking a look at excerpts from Elizabeth George's A Woman After God's Own Heart.
It's a classic, and I can see why you all were drawn to it. It's all about faith, personal growth, really digging into those timeless values.
And that's what we're all about here. Okay,
Okay.
so no messing around. Let's jump right into it. The book starts with this idea of a heart for God.
Yeah, and it really sets the stage, doesn't it?
It does. It's about prioritizing
Yeah.
that connection with the divine, even when life gets, a little crazy.
It reminds me of the story of Mary and Martha. You know the one.
Oh, absolutely. Martha's bustling around, stressed, and Mary's just soaking it all in at Jesus' feet.
And he actually commends her for it. It's like, whoa, permission to prioritize our spiritual needs, even when there are dishes in the sink.
So good. It's not about ignoring responsibilities, but understanding what truly feeds our souls, right? And there's this great story. It's about a woman choosing to spend time with her Bible instead of getting sucked into a soap opera.
Oh, I love that. It's such a relatable example, right? It's about those small, everyday choices. What we choose to focus on, what we give our time and energy to.
Exactly. Those little things add up. So we've got this heart for God, this foundation, and then the book dives into a heart of service.
Okay, yeah, and this one gets real.
It does.
Yeah.
Especially that question about marriage. Am I treating my husband as I would treat Christ? I mean, wow. Mic drop moment right there.
It's such a powerful question, isn't it? It makes you stop and really examine your heart, your actions. Are we extending that same grace and compassion we offer others to those closest to us?
It's so easy to fall into those routines.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing is she doesn't stop there. It's not just about marriage. It's about approaching all our relationships with that same spirit.
Exactly. It's about those small acts of kindness, those moments when we choose to put someone else's needs before our own. It's like ripples on a pond, expanding outward.
I love that visual. Okay, last foundational element here, a heart of obedience.
Yeah.
The book gets really real with the whole King David and King Saul comparison.
Oh, yeah. I talk about a study in contrasts, right?
Right. And it's so easy to see ourselves in both of them. We have these moments of incredible faith, and then, boom, we're messing up. We're making those human mistakes.
We're all a work in progress. It's that constant tension between our own will and surrendering to God's plan, isn't it?
And the advice she gives, it's so simple yet profound. When in doubt, don't.
Sometimes the simplest advice is the hardest to follow, you know? We live in this world that's all about instant gratification, constant stimulation.
It's true. We're bombarded with choices every single day.
And so having that pause, that moment to check in with our values, with that heart for God we talked about, it's more important than ever.
It's like hitting pause,
Yeah.
taking that breath before we jump into the fray. And that's a perfect segue into the next section, nurturing the heart.
Yeah.
We've got the foundation. Now it's about building those spiritual muscles.
Exactly. And you know what she talks about first? Drawing near to God through his word.
The good old Bible. We've all heard it, right? Read your Bible. But she really breaks down why it's so essential.
It's about more than just checking it off the to-do list, isn't it?
Totally. It's about letting those words really sink in, change us from the inside out. It reminds me of, how some people approach working out? They're just going through the motions, but then you find something that you really connect with where you feel that mind-body connection. That's what she's talking about here.
Oh, I totally get that. It's like with prayer too, right? Rushing through it versus really being present. And this part really got me thinking. It's about those missionary candidates she mentions. Only 1 out of 29 had a consistent devotional life.
I know, right? That's kind of shocking when you think about it. It's like if anyone's going to be plugged in, it's someone dedicating their life to ministry, right?
It really highlights the discipline it takes. It's a practice, something we have to cultivate even when life gets busy.
And those rewards, that peace and guidance that comes from that connection, which leads us perfectly to cultivating a heart of prayer. It's not just about saying our bedtime prayers, is it?
No, not at all. I love how she describes it as a tool, a way to deepen our faith and find that peace we were just talking about.
It's like having a direct line to, well, everything. And it doesn't have to be this big formal thing. You remember that story she shared? The one about her daughter giving her that blank book.
Oh, yeah. And it turned into this incredible tool for deepening her prayer life. Sometimes the simplest things, right?
Totally. It's not about having the perfect words. It's about showing it consistently and just, letting it all out. Okay, last piece of this puzzle. The importance of spiritual growth. This is where it all comes together.
Absolutely. It's about moving beyond just the basics and actively pursuing growth, becoming more Christ-like.
And this is where I love her practicality. She talks about having these 5 fat files, filled with knowledge in areas that matter.
Yes. And not just keeping that knowledge to ourselves, but sharing it, letting it spill over into the lives of others.
It's like that image she uses, the seven sacred pools, all overflowing into each other and ultimately emptying into this vast ocean. It's powerful.
Our own growth has this ripple effect, touching the lives of those around us in ways we may never fully realize.
It's like we're all these little tributaries, right?
Yeah.
And together, we create something vast and beautiful. So speaking of beautiful, the final section of the book, Living Out Your Faith, this is where she brings it all home.
Yeah, she gets down to the nitty-gritty of applying these principles to our everyday lives. And it starts with, get this, creating a haven of peace right in our own homes.
I love that because it's so easy to think of our homes as, just a place to crash after a long day.
Mm.
But she challenges us to see them differently.
She really does. Remember that story she tells about walking into this one house that just felt like, well, a little slice of heaven?
Oh, yeah, and it wasn't about being fancy or anything.
Not at all. It was about the feeling, the atmosphere of peace and warmth. And it really got me thinking, like, what kind of energy am I cultivating in my own home?
It's such a good question, right? Are we creating a space where people feel safe and loved and, connected to something bigger than themselves? And that leads perfectly into the power of order and intentionality.
Okay, so I have to admit, when I first read that, I thought, uh-oh, is this about having a perfectly organized home? Because, yikes, that's not me. But it's not about that at all.
Right. It's not about being a neat freak. It's about being intentional with our time and energy.
Exactly, and using them in a way that aligns with our values. And that part about being grounded to one day at home per week, game changer.
I know, right? At first I thought, wait, what? But then I realized it's about setting boundaries to create space for what matters. It's like that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
So true. We can't give what we don't have. We have to take care of ourselves, nurture our own spirits, so we can then pour into others. Which brings us to our final stop on this journey, ministry as an overflow. This is where it all comes together.
It's like that beautiful image of the seven sacred pools all
Mhm.
overflowing into each other and then emptying into the vastness of the ocean.
It's our growth, our
Mhm.
connection with God spilling over into the lives of others. And it's not about, getting recognition or accolades.
It's about letting that inner transformation radiate outward naturally and organically, just like those pools. Right.
Exactly. It's about being so full of love and joy and peace that it just, spills over. And that reminds me of something else she said that really struck me. When nothing is coming in, nothing can go out.
We have to keep filling our own wells, right?
We have to keep seeking, keep growing, keep connecting with the source. That's how we become conduits for that love and grace.
This has been such an inspiring conversation, and I know I'm walking away with a lot to think about. We've covered so much ground, from that initial spark of a heart for God to cultivating a deeper connection through His Word and prayer. We've talked about the power of service, not just in our families, but in all our relationships, and the importance of aligning our actions with our faith. And we've explored the transformative impact of personal spiritual growth and how it naturally leads to a life of purpose and meaning, a life that overflows with God's love. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. We'd love to hear your thoughts. How has this deep dive resonated with you? What are some of the nuggets of wisdom you're going to take with you? What are your thoughts on viewing life's challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and deeper trust in God's plan? Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep sharing the love.